Green above.
Here we go. History in the making.
Green, green, green.
The season ends with 3 champions and a lot of controversy. Hi, this is Brett McMillan. You listen to the Pit Reporters. With me this week, Jamie Little from Fox Sports and Tom Jensen from the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
Welcome to the Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network. And now, here's your host, Brett McMillan.
Hello and welcome to the show. Glad to have Jamie and Tom here. And man, we got a lot to unpack from championship weekend. And, Jamie, you got the one guy won the race that was supposed to win the race, that was supposed to win the championship, but he had to go 7 wide to do it on the restart. That was pretty incredible, watching Corey Heim do that.
Unbelievable, right? I mean, they've decided to do what others didn't, and that was take 4 tires instead of 2 with 2 laps to go. You're like, all right, NASCAR overtime, this is going to be interesting. There's no way that the tires are going to mean that much. Well, the driver knew what he had. That crew chief knew what he had. And oh my gosh, 7 wide. It was so incredible. And it set up perfectly for Corey Heim to have another restart after that to pass Ty Majeski and win the championship. So finally, he's the champion, because the last 2 years, you could have argued that he should have been the champion. And it all came to a head, at the final race, and it didn't work out until this year.
Well, we'll talk about him later, because he had one heck of a year. And we don't know what his plans, I guess, for a full-time ride are next year. We'll see how it all plays out for him. But in the meantime, in the Cup Series, Tom, it looked like it was going to be Denny Hamlin's year. Finally, instead, final restart. They tried 4 tires, didn't work for him, and here Kyle Larson becomes a 2-time champion.
It was just a crushing moment for Denny Hamlin, unfortunately. You couldn't help but feel for him. He was devastated, as he should be, but it comes down to, on the final pit stop, Denny comes in first, Larson came in third, but Larson pitted earlier. So Denny's team knew that Larson took only 2 and had taken only 2 on the previous pit stop, but Denny's team opted to take 4. And so Larson comes out 5th and Denny comes out 10th. And I've watched the restart a number of times. I don't think Joey Logano did Denny Hamlin any favors on the restart, but it's that situation is just a crew chief's nightmare, because if you're leading the race and you stay out, everybody behind you comes in, gets tires, and smokes you halfway through the first turn. If you come in, a bunch of people stay out, and you're buried back in traffic. Now, the one thing I will say that's different this time, the only 2 people that Denny had to beat were Chase Briscoe, who really wasn't a factor, and Kyle. And that makes it a different dynamic than if he was winning the race and trying to win the race. And I mean, people can second guess the crew chiefs all they want, but that was an almost no-win situation, making that call.
It was interesting, Jamie, because Kyle Larson was almost apologetic after winning the championship. I mean, he said, I didn't lead a lap and then finished 3rd, and yet here I am, the champion again.
I think he was as stunned to win it as Denny Hamlin was to lose it. I mean, I think that's how a lot of us felt at home watching it. And it was an interesting pit call. You go back to Chris Gale calling for 4 tires. When I saw that, I immediately thought, well, they watched what Corey Heim did and it worked for him. But the thing about Heim was they had another caution. So once Heim went 7 wide, he got from 10th up to 2nd. He had another shot at Ty Majeski. Denny Hamlin didn't have another shot. And if he had another shot, would it have worked out? Who knows? We know how dominant he was. But just another question I had was, I mean, the great part of having pit out was you watch everybody else come by. You see what they're doing. And when he realized everybody else took 2 tires, why didn't he call an audible and get that track position when you know you only have 2 laps to get it done? I mean, we can all sit here and bench race with the best of them. And it's just heartbreaking. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, I don't think I've ever felt that heartbroken for an individual just because of his past and how long he's been trying to get it, and knowing how dominant he was. He did everything in his power that he could have.
It's funny, Tom, how Denny Hamlin went from being the villain most of the year to a guy who now all of a sudden is the sympathetic hero and yet he didn't win the race.
Yeah, that's interesting. Going back to what Jamie said, though, Kyle Larson's not going to beat Denny Hamlin coming out behind him and on equal tires. There's no way that happens. Hamlin said today he didn't see Kyle Larson the entire race until that final restart. So to Jamie's point, which I agree with, the right call probably should have been 2 tires for Denny. And you can second guess all you want, but it was a heartbreaking loss for him. But yes, it is interesting. He was in the most popular driver voting this year, one of the finalists, and even he was shocked by that. So,
but yeah, and I guess Jamie, NBC did a bang up piece right before the race, and I think that maybe has helped turn Denny into the sympathetic hero, because they talked a lot of what he's been going through with his dad and a lot of the other stuff, and his son being born this year and naming him after J.D. Gibbs. So I think maybe some of that helps the sympathy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love listening to Sirius XM, when I'm driving around taking the kids here or there. And I heard so many fans in the last couple of days call in and be like, I'm not a Gibbs fan. I'm not a Denny fan. However, knowing what he's going through, all of a sudden Denny becomes relatable. And I was rooting for him to win it. I mean, I think that was the sentiment by so many people that love to hate Denny because he stirs the pot and he welcomes that. He wants people to make noise for him. But suddenly Denny, for the first time, I think almost ever, he has these people rooting for him. They want to see him succeed and to win for him and his dad and his family. And they realize Denny is human and he might be relatable, something that they never really thought before.
And we're seeing, Tom, this week on the day of the Champions Banquet at the press conference they had, Denny basically said, he goes, and he said after the race, he goes, this is the first time I don't really want to get back in a car anytime soon. And he said on the Champions press conference on Tuesday, basically, and I'm paraphrasing, I haven't made any decisions about next year yet. I just don't know. And the emotion is still raw. I fully expect to see Denny back in a car next year. And I'm sure you probably do as well. But yeah, the emotion of this one stings because this was as close as he's come to a championship.
Well, and the other thing is the clock is running. He's got at most 2 years to do this again. And he had the fastest car in the race. He did everything right. He was positioned perfectly, and he still didn't win the championship through no fault of his own. I think that's got to be stated. He didn't do a single thing wrong. And gosh, if you looked at him in the press conference, he looked like he hadn't shaved in a couple days. He looked like he hadn't slept in a couple days. And I don't blame him for that. I'm not saying that to be critical, but it was just crushing and it was devastating. And of course he wants some time away from the race car. This is a brutal schedule. This is 38 races over 40 weeks. And you're exhausted. I remember when I used to be on the road every week, by about the middle of October, you're cooked. And the drivers have got a lot more to do than the journalists and some of the other people on the road. It's physically and mentally exhausting. And he had his heart broken. Give him some time, give him some respect, give him some space.
I'd say, Jamie, this is the first time they've done, for a cup at least, the champion ceremony a couple of days after the championship rather than making him wait 2 or 3 weeks. For Denny Hamlin, this has got to be a blessing because he can get this done and move on and get away from it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, Brett, I was listening to some of those comments from Denny earlier, and to your point, exactly. He said, I'm just glad that we're here. We're celebrating now. We're not waiting 2 weeks, so I have to relive it all again. I can get it done with, and then I could take a break and separate from everything and spend time with his family. So it is a blessing for him. And for Larson, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he did not expect to win this. He's got to write a speech. He needs to get his clothes together. He needs to get ready for the media tour. All of these things that I truly don't feel like Kyle really thought that it was going to be his. I mean, sure, Cliff Daniels always believes, right? They never give up. He had intentions in his mind to beat that 11 and win the championship, but you just felt the surprise and shock by Kyle Larson. So I think for all of them, it's great that NASCAR is doing this. Keep everybody out west, keep them in the desert, celebrate wrap up the season, and then everybody have some time to themselves and their families, and and go into Thanksgiving, not the next week like we used to, but in a few weeks from now.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about Kyle Larson, and now that he has 2 championships to his name, where does this put him in the rank of all-time greats, and does this seal his legacy? Stay with us.
Hey, this is Michael Walter for Echo Park Automotive, and I'm here to tell you why you should shop Echo Park before you buy a car, truck, or SUV. Over half the inventory at Echo Park is priced below $25,000. And car for car, truck for truck, Echo Park Automotive's pricing is $3,000 less than the competition. Maybe that's why Echo Park has over 100,000 5-star reviews. Echo Park Automotive is built to make sure everyone drives away happy. It's even in their name, Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
We work hard to keep our cars looking great on the outside, but engine components need our attention too. That's where you can trust Z-Max Micro Lubricant to disperse carbon buildup in your engine and fuel system to keep your car or truck running at its peak. By soaking into the metal of your engine, Z-Max Micro Lubricant improves performance, extends engine life, and reduces emissions. Trust the many customers who've said, "Thanks for saving my engine." Find out more at zmax.com or follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Doug Rice is your host for Fast Talk every week on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
This is the kind of racing you can feel in your chest. Door to door, inches apart, every lap, all on the line. This is Echo Park Speedway, the hottest track in NASCAR. 3 days of tailgates, camping, and full throttle fun. But Sunday is chaos, speed, and glory. This February 22nd, the Auto Trader 400 takes over Atlanta. Get tickets at EchoParkSpeedway.com.
In addition to traditional summer camp, Victory Junction also hosts family weekends, partner programs, and day camps. And the Victory Junction Outreach Program takes camp fun beyond our gates to children at hospitals and partner sites throughout North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Victory Junction makes the impossible accessible.
This is a place that needs to be here 50 years from now, 100 years from now. We are never going to run out of kids that can benefit from Victory Junction.
Discover how you can get involved at victoryjunction.org.
Let's get back to more Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
And welcome back, along with Tom Jensen from the NASCAR Hall of Fame and Jamie Little from Fox Sports. Brett McMillan, glad to have you with us. Tom, you and I were talking during the break. There's only one NASCAR champion, Cup champion, who is not in the Hall of Fame at this point, and it's Bill Rexford from, 1950. Multi-time champion Kyle Larson. Now he and Joey Logano are the only multi-time champions, and Kyle Busch, the only multi-time champions still running, are currently running in the sport. So, I mean, obviously that seals his legacy as one of the all-time greats.
They're both first ballot Hall of Famers, no question, whenever they decide to retire. And I would be shocked if Denny wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. Kevin Harvick will be eligible in the class of 2027. I'm sure he has one Cup championship and 2 championships in what's now the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. He'll be a first ballot. So, people love to talk about the good old days when it was Pearson and Petty or Rusty and Earnhardt. But there are some great drivers out there racing now whose names 20 years from now, fathers and mothers are going to be telling their sons and daughters, hey, I saw Kyle Larson race. I saw Joey Logano race. I saw Kevin Harvick race. That's the way it should be.
It's interesting because you feel like, Jamie, in a lot of ways, this was a quiet year somewhat for Kyle Larson. But you go look at the stats. He still won 3 races. He had 15 top 5s, which is exactly the same number he had last year and the year before. And he had 22 top 10s, which is more than he had every year except 2021. So, I mean, he still had a solid year, a pretty, certainly a better than average year for Kyle Larson. And he did, he finished 3rd to win the championship, which is kind of odd when you get right down to it.
Yeah, I think for sure he had such a consistent season. I mean, typical Kyle Larson and that 5 team. However, they weren't talked about as much since May. He hadn't won a race. He hasn't won a race since mid-May. And that's a long stretch for Kyle Larson, especially when they're firing on all cylinders and they're getting the job done. I thought I mean, that's something I watched all through the summer months. Like, when are they going to win again? We know what happened. He won at Kansas, then he went to the Indy 500, and it was a complete disaster for him. And I never felt like he got his complete mojo back. Yes, they were consistent. They're just that good. But he hadn't gotten back to victory lane. So I feel like he went into the championship 4 without a lot of expectation, maybe on himself and maybe from the fans as well, where you had William Byron continuing to lead a lot of laps, continuing to win throughout the season. You had Denny Hamlin with 6 wins that was in the headlines nonstop. He was getting the job done. And Chase Briscoe too. I mean, knocking off pole after pole after pole, getting those couple of wins later in the season. I feel like all those guys were at the top of, the discussion where Kyle Larson really wasn't there in my mind. So I think it comes as more of a surprise to people just because he wasn't that dominant Kyle Larson leading up to the final race.
When you look at the last 5 years of Kyle Larson, he's got 2 championships now, Tom. He's got 26 wins in those 5 years. And, the nickname Young Money has been there with him for a while. And you watch the success he's had at all these series across the country. And he's credited with bringing a lot of dirt track fans to watching NASCAR because of his success level. Where do you see him as a guy at the Hall of Fame? Where do you see his legacy down the road?
Oh, I think he's one of the greatest drivers of this generation. He's one of those guys like Tony Stewart or A.J. Foyt who could drive anything. He's so good in sprint cars. He's good in midgets. He's won a lot of races. And to Jamie's point earlier about maybe he flew under the radar, nobody had more top 5s in NASCAR this year in the Cup Series than Kyle Larson did. Nobody had more top 10s. If the points would have just been added up for all 36 races, he would have been the season-long champion. Yeah, he didn't have the flash moments, especially in the second half of the year, that maybe Denny and Byron had, but he had a heck of a year. And he's going to be good year in, year out. I mean, the Hendrick team, they now have 15 championships. That's 50% more than any other Cup team in the history of NASCAR. He's not going anywhere. He's going to run well, and he's going to keep winning. And like Joey Logano, I wonder, what ultimately he's going to end up with. Is he going to get a 3rd championship, a 4th, maybe even a 5th? Will Joey get a 4th or a 5th? There's a lot to look forward to in the coming years.
Yeah, he's 35 years old. No, I'm 33 years old, Jamie. I mean, it's like he's going to be around for a while.
He is. And to both of your points about him bringing outside fans and what he's able to do in other cars, I am 100% with you, Tom, on him being a generational talent. And every time I think about Kyle Larson or talk about him, I put him in that same category as A.J. Foyt and Tony Stewart, of course. But you look at the wins that he's had across the board in everything that he runs, the guy can race anything, 250 plus wins. I feel like that is so good for this sport because he is a rock star. He's a freak of nature. This guy he's so nonchalant, so mellow. You ask him anything and he's honest. Like, he's just a real guy. I've loved the time that I got to spend with him, especially doing the Indy 500 stuff, really getting behind the curtain of who Kyle Larson is and his family. I mean, they're just as real as it gets. And he is just so talented. And I love the fact that he's only 33 because he's going to be around for a long time. And I just wonder, the sky is the limit for this guy. As long as you keep him at Hendrick Motorsports with that team, Cliff Daniels, how many more championships is to be determined.
Well, each week on the Pit Reporters, we'll give you a chance to go to GoPRN.com and vote in our poll. And this week's question is, who is NASCAR's driver of the year? And here are your choices. Larson, Hamlin, Connor Zilisch, had a pretty good year in the Xfinity Series.
Respectable.
Or Corey Heim, who, he won a truck race or 2. Or 11. Was it 11? Is that 11 or 12?
12.
12. Finished it with 12. Yeah, he did okay. Last week we
That's
asked
a hard
you.
question.
Yeah. Last week we asked you, since there is no Team Penske in the championship, do you wish the championship was staying at Phoenix? 28% said yes. 72% said no. It's interesting, though, guys. There was no Team Penske in the championship, and that was one of the big complaints. Penske keeps winning all these races at Phoenix and winning the championship. They didn't win the championship, but, oh, by the way, they did win the race. So
ironic, right?
I know. That's what the first thing Ryan Blaney said. He goes, I finally win the race here, but I don't win the championship, because the year he won the championship,
He didn't.
Ross
win the race.
Chastain won the race. So there you go. All right, when we come back, a lot of controversy about whether or not the point system should stay the same. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about the other two series of Crown Champions, and one of those was controversial because the guy that dominated the regular season didn't win the championship. Stay with us.
Look, yo, how do you feel today? Maybe you're a little hungover again, feeling a little embarrassed about a few things? Listen, why haven't you called yet to get help? Man, aren't you tired of feeling this way? So listen, whatever your party drug of choice is, there are ways to get clean and sober, especially if it's messing with your life. Hey man, we all have choices. You can make a choice right here, right now, today, to call the number I'm about to give you and start a brand new life without drugs or booze. I know it's hard to think about this, but imagine how great your life could be. And all it takes is one simple phone call. I've got a team of people standing by ready to check your insurance and let you know what it takes to get clean and sober. Okay, so get ready to save this number, because here it comes.
800-296-1140. 800-296-1140. 800-296-1140. That's 800-296-1140. Paid for by the Detox Treatment Helpline.
Catch Kyle Petty's Back Then Again Country Countdown with Charlie and Debbie here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Get your NASCAR fix with PRN's Garage Pass.
It's hard to just turn it around in 1 week, but I wouldn't be shocked if we did.
I don't think the results have been what we have hoped for or expected, but I think the potential in the cars and the speed has been pretty good.
It's a big deal already, so that's a big positive for us. So I think now it's just about working together and getting better.
I think the Penske cars are still elite when it comes to plate racing.
Hi, I'm Mark Garrow, tracking the latest racing news every weekday.
We all play a role in keeping our community safe.
Every day, we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good, others not so much.
But that's life.
It's when something doesn't seem quite right
that it's time to pay attention.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Brett McMillan returns with more of the Pit Reporters here on the Performance Racing Network.
And welcome back, along with Jamie Little from Fox Sports and Tom Jensen from the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Brett McMillan, glad to have you with us. All right, Jamie, we talked earlier about the race you got to call where Corey Heim goes 7 wide on the restart. And this is the one series you can look at in the Truck Series and say, all right, the guy who dominated this series all year long, he was the guy that ended up being crowned the champion, but it almost didn't happen.
That's right. I mean, I'm going to be totally honest, there was a little bit of a relief feel. I think we all had okay, the right guy won the championship, the guy who absolutely dominated this year. And we only say that because we know that building up to this race, the fans have been so vocal, so many against this whole format that we have. And, if the wrong guy wins, or the guy who didn't dominate the whole year and be the best car in, race in and race out, people are going to throw a fit about it. And I think, Corey Heim did what he needed to do. It came very, very close, maybe one restart away. He wouldn't have won that championship. But then on Saturday, we saw it happen with Connor Zilisch. 10 race wins to his credit this year, and he's a rookie. Of course, he's the favorite going in. Of course, that's who you think should win the championship, but it didn't turn out that way because we have a system where it's a one race, shootout. And some love it, some love those moments, but you're going to have both ends of the spectrum, and that's exactly what we got this weekend.
As I'm watching the Xfinity race, Tom, I'm thinking, Allgaier had a very good car, led a lot of laps for the first 2/3 of that race, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm okay with Allgaier winning this thing if Zillage doesn't, because he clearly had the second best car, and it's kind of like 1A and 1B for most of the year. It's just that Zillage won a lot of the races, but Allgaier was right there. So I think those clearly were the two best cars for the bulk of the season. But it didn't turn out that way, and on this day, Love was the guy that had the better car at the end of the race.
Yeah, but you got to remember something. The best driver, the best team doesn't always win, and that's true of any sport. In the Super Bowl, New England was undefeated, going for a perfect season, playing the New York Giants, who were a wild card team, and the Giants beat them. I remember in 1985, my alma mater, Villanova University, was 19-10, playing Georgetown, who I think was 31-2, and was the defending champion and believed to be unbeatable. And Villanova upset them. One of the great nights of my life. And so, we go into this, well, I want the best team to win. Do you really? Does everybody feel that way, or is it just really convenient to get incensed because your guy didn't win or the race didn't play out the way you had expected it to? And I guarantee you, if somebody wins, well, let's go back. Let's go back to 2003. Matt Kenseth won in the third race of the year. And the rest of the year, in the fourth race of the year, he took over the points lead and never trailed again. And people complained all year long about Kenseth doesn't win any races. All he does is finish in the top 5, in the top 10. Gordon wins more races, or this guy wins more races, and this is boring to watch. Well, you can't have it both ways. And for as loud as the voices are now wanting change, I'll be interested to see what the same people who are complaining now are going to be saying a year from now.
Well, how big was this for Jesse Love and for RCR, Jamie, especially considering that Junior Motorsports had 3/4 of the field, and for Love to be able to pick up that win?
It's huge. I mean, that organization, Danny Stockman, he is a lifer. I mean, the championships he's won, the young drivers that he has groomed and brought up through the ranks, it's incredible. And he puts his heart and soul into it. And he has such a good one with Jesse Love. And I had, one of the best things about covering the ARCA Menard series for the last few years for me was getting to know the future stars. And Jesse Love was one of them. And in 2023, he absolutely dominated. He won 50% of the races that year, 10 of 20 races, won the championship, and we knew he was the real deal. And he goes over to Xfinity. He gets a win last year in his first year, in his rookie season. This year, he gets the win at Daytona, doesn't win again until the end of the season. He wins the championship. And I think that's a little bit of a surprise to people because he hasn't been in it that long, but this kid is so good with an incredible team around him. But I heard Danny Stockman actually say something today, before the awards. He said, we went to the sim a couple days before they loaded up and went to Phoenix. He said, we walked out of that sim and I thought, this is us. This is our race to lose. And he was right. I mean, they came to play, and when it mattered most, the play calls, that pit crew, we know how good those guys are. It's Austin Dillon's team from Cup. It was a great story.
And that's an amazing thing when you talk about that crew being so good, Tom, especially when we've all wondered since NASCAR went to the new car for Cup with the single lug, how difficult was it going to be for the pit crews to go from being, changing the 5 lugs on Saturday to the single lug on Sunday, and would it affect these guys?
Well, obviously it didn't. Which good for them. And, You know, Richard Childress Racing really had a gut punch earlier in the year when Austin Hill got penalized and lost all his bonus points and really was taken out of contention for a championship. So this was really redemption for them as an organization after having a very bad setback that could have had lasting effects for them. So it was very good to see them for them. But again, just like with Denny, you feel bad for Connor Zilisch because he was the man. You know, he's one of the youngest guys in the field and a rookie, and he just drove like he was Richard Petty all year long and for naught. And that's a tough pill to swallow.
Real quickly, Jamie, as you look at Corey Heim, and you've been watching him all year long on the Truck Series, he still doesn't have a full-time ride for next year, does he?
No, he doesn't. What we're being told, you know, they obviously haven't announced anything, but, you know, depending on how the lawsuit ends up for 2311, he's expected to be in for many more Cup races than he was this year. So I don't know what that means, but imagine him being in probably a third of the races, if not more, next year. I was told that he will do a handful, if not more, truck races for Tricon Garage. He'll come back. I don't know what that schedule looks like yet, but he'll definitely be in the Truck Series for however many 5 to 10 races. And I haven't heard anything about Xfinity. You know, Sam Hunt is full, so you got to wonder where he would go there. But, you know, in talking to Corey, he said, I think other people are more worried about it and stressed about it than I am. He trusts Toyota and their process, and he knows they're going to put him in a ride full time in the Cup Series when the time is right and the right opportunity comes about. And he's patient with it. And we don't see that in young guys. We see them, yeah, hey, guys, I did all this. I won a championship here. I want a full-time ride on Sunday, and I'm going to go wherever there's an opening. And Corey, I'm sure his phone has been ringing, but he has stayed very loyal to Toyota, who plucked him from a race at Kansas in the ARCA Menard Series, loved what he was doing there, and they put him through the development program, and he has paid them back tenfold. But they have a great relationship, and I don't see him wavering at this point.
Certainly one of the rising stars in the sport. All right, when we come back, we're going to tackle the point system. Boy, folks have been talking about that all week long, especially after the Xfinity race, after the Cup race. What is the best system to determine a champion? Stay with us.
This is Kyle Petty for Echo Park Automotive. As you might imagine, I know a thing or two about cars, and I'm here to tell you about a whole new way to buy a car, truck, or SUV. Did you know that Echo Park Automotive has over 95,000 five-star reviews? On top of that, every car that Echo Park Automotive sells goes through a 190-point inspection to make sure that it looks and drives like new, so you leave happy. It's even in their name, Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
In addition to traditional summer camp, Victory Junction also hosts family weekends, partner programs, and day camps. And the Victory Junction Outreach Program takes camp fun beyond our gates to children at hospitals and partner sites throughout North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Victory Junction makes the impossible accessible.
This is a place that needs to be here 50 years from now, 100 years from now. We are never going to run out of kids that can benefit from Victory Junction.
Discover how you can get involved at victoryjunction.org.
Lenny Baticki brings you PRN at the Track every week here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Hi, this is Doug Rice at PRN. Join me every Monday night for another great episode of Fast Talk.
I watched the race on TV, and they wanted to give him the mantle of greatest of all time, and he's won 4 races in a row. And so I can't do that yet. But I do think what we're watching is a guy who's changing the sport. He's changing the way the other drivers approach road racing. He's making them study. He's making them up their game.
That's Fast Talk right here on the Performance Racing Network.
Local radio brings people together like never before.
It's a beautiful hometown weekend out there. We've got
your local stations keep you informed and involved with music, talk shows, and real-time news updates you can trust. We are live and local. We are America's broadcasters, connecting you to what matters most. Text radio to 52886 and tell Congress to support your local radio stations.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
We're back with more of the Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
And welcome back. Tom Jensen is here and Jamie Little's here. And Tom, let's solve the world's problems. What's the best point system to determine champion?
I don't know that there is one. And I think whatever point system, one of my former colleagues used to joke, the two things that NASCAR fans hate the most are the way things are and change. And I think whatever happens, there's going to be a certain knee-jerk reaction of people who say, well, they should have done it this way or they should have done it that way. There, as the late, what's fair, as the late, great David Poole once said, fair is where you go to eat corn dogs. And it's you're always going to find a way. I'll tell you a story. I was talking to Mike Helton once back in the 1990s, way back in the Stone Age. And this was when they were getting 52, 55 cars to show up every week, which meant 10 or 12 would go home every week. And all the guys who didn't qualify would be complaining about how the system was unfair. And Mike looked me in the eye and said, and I have a tremendous amount of admiration and respect for Mike Helton for all he's done for the sport over the years, looked me in the eye and said, when you have 55 cars and 43 spots, no matter what, 12 guys are going home. And I guarantee you all 12 of those guys are going to figure out a format that would have got them in and somebody else out. That's just the reality. That's math. That's the numbers. And I think, I'd be okay. Personally, I'd be okay if we went back to 36 races. I'd be okay if we settled it over 3 or 4 races. They'll come up with a way to do it. And I think it will be an improvement over what we got now. But it's not going to be a situation where everybody's going to instantly jump on board and go, God, why didn't I think of that? That's wonderful.
Well, and Jamie, obviously you work in television, and television's driving the bus in a lot of different ways because television's spending a lot of money on this sport, and everybody's benefiting from that. And I've heard from a lot of people since the weekend going, "You just don't know what it was like back in the 1970s and 80s and 90s." I'm going, yeah, absolutely. I do because I was covering the sport then. But things have changed a lot. And the attention span of the general public is shrunk considerably. Yeah. And you know that working in television as well as anybody, folks have a shorter attention span. And I think television understands that. You need something. And I think that's why the playoff system was developed. And I think we need to have a playoff system. This crowning a champion with 3 races to go, which they did in IndyCar this year, I don't think that's the right solution.
Yeah, it's interesting. And obviously, I've thought about it since we implemented this playoff format. And I have always been a proponent of the playoff format. I think it's exciting. I think you have those Game 7 moments. That's what NASCAR wanted. And I think the fans really like it. However, I agree with those people that say there is a problem having a one-race shootout. And how do you fix that? The things that I've come up with, it all comes back to the same thought. Why don't we have a 3-race format for the final round? That way, if somebody like Christopher Bell, what happened to him a few years ago, he blows an engine, he's not completely out. He may have another chance or 2 chances, but it's a cumulative points of those 3 races, I think would be more fair than a 1-race shootout. Now, does it dilute it a little bit? And you have that Game 7 moment? Maybe we might not have that moment, or we might get that moment. I don't know, but I think having 2 or 3 races to settle that last round, I think would make more sense and maybe make some people happy, but it'll make other people mad. So to your point, you can't have it all. You can't have it both ways.
I think in a lot of ways, Tom, NASCAR has done themselves a disservice this year by especially a third of the way, 40% of the way into the season by saying, or by letting it be known that they're seriously considering looking at a different point system, which just stoked the fires.
Well, maybe. I think the fires are busy all the time. I mean, when I was working at Fox and going to races pretty much every week. I'd get people on Twitter going, well, why doesn't the crew chief put 3/4 of a pound of air in Dale Jr.'s right rear tire? He'd take off and win the race then. You get people who are going to be unhappy no matter what you do. But I want to address for a second the idea of Game 7 moments. They cannot be manufactured. They happen organically or they don't. You go back to the Super Bowl 3 years ago, Kansas City and Philadelphia. 38-35 game, goes down to the last few seconds. Kansas City kicks a field goal, win. On the edge of your seat the whole game. The past Super Bowl, the Eagles were up 34-0, and the Kansas City Chiefs didn't even get past midfield till almost the end of the third quarter. It was an absolute slaughter, blowout from start to finish. Same two teams playing 2 years apart. One was a true Game 7 moment, and one wasn't. And that's just the way sports are. And that's the way NASCAR is too. Sometimes even when, you could have a 3-race championship round and somebody wins 2 races and finishes second in the third and smokes the field. Or it could go down to, 4 guys within 5 points of each other the last round. But you can't artificially guarantee excitement and drama and the Game 7 moment. Sports don't work that way.
It's interesting, Jamie, because they've talked about, and this has been one of the things that's come out from the committee that you've heard these people say, is they're trying to, NASCAR wants to create more stars. And the people who are arguing for the season-long championship feel like they could create more stars that way, and that doesn't make any sense to me. First of all, I think the word of Ross Chastain, I like Ross Chastain a lot. Ross Chastain would not be the star he is today if it weren't for the move he made at Martinsville a couple of years ago, which would not have happened if it weren't for the playoffs, right?
Hail Melon.
No, Jamie, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. That wall ride was seen by more people than have probably seen any moment in NASCAR in the last 10 years. I don't know if that's a fact, but I remember the numbers. It was everywhere. And you don't have that moment. You don't have that desperation, that moment that he dreamed up if he was ever in that situation. He was able to pull it off because he had to in that moment to advance. And if you have that season-long points, what's the point? Sure, there's desperate moves, but to that extreme that you're literally, if you don't do that move, you're out and you're done with the season as far as a championship hope. You're exactly right. I mean, I love the playoffs. I think the moments that it creates are incredible. I just understand that if they want to adjust that last race and make it a 3-race round, I don't have a problem with that at all.
I think that, to me, that's the best solution. Have a 3 or 4 race average finish. Originally, Tom, though, when we went to this single race for the championship, part of the reason was there'll be no math involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you go back to the way the chase was before they went to this system in 2014. There was very little math involved because you got 40 points if you won the race and you got 1 point if you finished last. And it was very easy to follow and understand. And now with stage points and, how can somebody finish third and have more points than the winner? And it gets kind of murky and harder to explain. So I don't know. I'm good with a 3 or 4 race, final round of the playoffs. I think you're going to have drama no matter what you do, but there isn't a magic bullet out there that's going to make everybody happy and is going to create dynamic racing 38 times a year. Just isn't going to happen.
Real quickly, before we take a break, Tom, coming up on the holiday season, what do we have going on at the Hall of Fame?
We're getting ready. We're going to have our induction in January, the class of 2026, Harry Gant, Kurt Busch, and Ray Hendrick. And we will be doing some amazing storytelling around those three gentlemen. I've been working with Harry, and our team has been working with Harry and Kurt and Ray's grandsons, and it's going to be an exciting time for sure. And we have a lot of new exhibits going in too.
Do you still have the ice rink at Christmas time?
No, that's gone away, unfortunately.
No. Does Harry still have a steakhouse?
I don't know. He does not. We talked about that. He does not.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, it was really, really cool to that point. I was at NASCAR Productions at their headquarters now up in Concord, and Harry Gant and Kurt Busch were both there together, and to watch them see each other and embrace and sit there and chat. They had to pull them out of the room and say, guys, it's time for the interviews now. So they sat them down to do those interviews for everything that's going to happen at the Hall of Fame. But it was so neat to see those two. They're both so appreciative of this moment and what's to come.
Yeah, it's going to be a great induction ceremony. I can't wait to see it. When we come back, let's take a slight peek ahead. What's coming up during the off season and maybe what the big stories might be in 2026. Stay with us.
Let's talk about your health insurance. There are a lot of reasons why people need affordable health insurance. But here's the bottom line. You know you need affordable health insurance. For you, a spouse, a family member, whatever. I'm going to give you a free hotline to call to find affordable health insurance that can cover all your health insurance needs in case you get sick or have an emergency. Plus, cover vision, dental, and more. And there are no long-term commitments. You can keep your plan as long as it's affordable. And for the price of a cup of coffee. We're not talking about one of those fancy coffees. For the price of a regular cup of coffee a day, you can have quality, affordable health insurance. Call the Health Insurance Hotline for a free quote.
800-275-7851. 800-275-7851. 800-275-7851. That's 800-275-7851.
Mark Garrow's your host for Garage Pass, here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Hey, it's Charlie and Debbie, along with NASCAR legend Kyle Petty, inviting you to join us for Kyle Petty's Back Then Again Country Countdown.
Each week, we'll put it in reverse and take a trip down memory lane, looking back at that week's top 20 country songs from years past.
We'll dive into what made those songs and artists move the needle, what pop culture trends made those years unique.
And you'll get to hear me tell stories only I can tell.
So don't miss Kyle Petty's Back Then Again Country Countdown right here each week.
Welcome to PRN's At the Track. I'm Lenny Baticki. We are PRN's half-hour weekly show dedicated to the short track, dirt track, legends, and kart racing across the Southeast. We provide our audience with the news and insightful conversations with the newsmakers from grassroots racing. How did that help you this time to take this victory from a grassroots perspective?
I definitely felt like Martinsville was a lot harder than the other one.
That's PRN's At the Track.
Let's get back to more pit reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back. Jamie Little from Fox Sports is here, and Tom Jensen from the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And Jamie, as we look ahead to the off-season, I don't know that we have any open rides right now in the Cup Series. I think that's all been taken care of. So there really, I don't think, is much silly season ahead. I know job one, and I don't want to even get into this because there's so much complexity in this. Job one is get the lawsuit settled.
Yes.
And then, what do you think the big stories are going to be coming up in 2026?
Oh, gosh. For me, the big picture is the young drivers, the future superstars. There's so many. As you see in the truck series, the names that we saw, the names that we talked about this year, Gio Ruggiero will be back. He was Rookie of the Year this year, got that win a couple of weeks ago at Talladega. Then you have Brent Cruz, who was part-time and just on the cusp of winning. He didn't get it done, but I expect him to find a ride. I don't know, full-time, part-time. I hear he may be going Xfinity Racing. And Connor Zilisch, I mean, does it get any better than him? He's a unicorn, and we know that he's moving up to the Cup Series. So for him, I think that's even more of the heartbreak, that could have been his one and only shot to win an Xfinity title, and he came up short because now he's stepping up and moving on to Cup, and we know how long it could take to really get your footing there and to have a chance at a championship. But I think the big picture is just these young guys and who's going to do what. Raja Karuth is moving up out of the Truck Series. He's going full-time Xfinity, most of those races with Junior Motorsports. So a lot to look forward to. That's what I'm focused on, I think, as I look to Daytona, is the youngsters and what kind of splash they're going to continue to make as they move on up.
I think that Connor Zilisch going against Shane Van Gisbergen at the road courses is going to be really intriguing as teammates.
Yes, it's going to be so exciting. Why, if you're looking for tickets to buy for a race, to watch these two experts as teammates go at it next year, I think it's going to be incredible. I cannot wait. I think Circuit of the Americas is our first one. So buy your tickets now, I guess.
Yeah, it's like the third race of the season. So, yeah. Get ready. Tom, what are you thinking about the big stories will be in 2026?
Well, Connor Zilisch will obviously be a huge one. Can he make the kind of impact in Cup that people think he might be? Nobody expects him to win 10 races, of course, but even 2 or 3 might very well be possible. I'm looking forward to the street race in San Diego on the naval base. That's going to be a big event. 250th anniversary of the Navy. That's going to be fun. North Wilkesboro is a points race. I've gone to the truck race in North Wilkesboro last couple of years with my son just for fun, and it's like walking into Wrigley Field or Fenway Park. It's got that you can almost feel a visceral sense of history in that track when you go there. What'll Denny Hamlin do? Denny, I fully expect him to be back, but will he rebound? Will he win a championship? Will he decide that, he's not going to race? If I were a betting man, I'd say there's about a 95% chance he'll race, but that's up to Denny. And, he's had a great career and he has nothing to apologize for, whether he wins a championship or another race or not. So there's always storylines, and who moves up and who slides back. There's always teams who move ahead and teams who move back. So the power balance always shifts a little, although it seems like the three or four big names are always there at the end of the year.
The Jamie Foxx will be at the beginning of the season again and through the All-Star race again, which this year will be at Dover, which is going to be interesting.
A little bit different. Let's hope for good weather, because we know when you go to Dover, there's just a problem with that wet stuff that falls from the skies. So let's hope it's on our side this year. By the way, this was the first year in I think 20 years that we didn't have a race postponed. So hallelujah to the racing and weather gods. They worked on our side. We were delayed in the Daytona 500, but not postponed. So what a year for that. Real quick, I want to go back to what Tom said about going to a new place. The trucks are going to St. Pete, a doubleheader with the IndyCar series. I think that's going to be really interesting. And what I'm hearing is these different drivers, different names, maybe from IndyCar, maybe from NASCAR, that want to race in that truck series race. So that's something that's going to be cool. And Ram coming back to NASCAR. We're going to have 5 trucks in the field. So can't wait to see how all that shakes out.
Yeah, got the IndyCar, NASCAR doubleheader at Phoenix too, which will be fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so.
exactly.
And one thing that's kind of gone under the radar is NASCAR has increased the number of races that Cup drivers can compete in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. So it'll be interesting to see if, guys like Kyle Busch, who, blew everybody away for decades in trucks and in the second level series, we'll go back and race a few of those.
Yeah, you're right. When we come back, White Flag Laps.
This is Kyle Petty for Echo Park Automotive. As you might imagine, I know a thing or two about cars, and I'm here to tell you about a whole new way to buy a car, truck, or SUV. Did you know that Echo Park Automotive has over 95,000 5-star reviews? On top of that, every car that Echo Park Automotive sells goes through a 190-point inspection to make sure that it looks and drives like new, so you leave happy. It's even in their name. Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
Whether your engine runs daily or only when you need it, Z-Max Micro Lubricant is the force you need against carbon buildup that can damage your engine. Combustion causes carbon and other harmful deposits to build up in your engine, fuel system, and transmission. And carbon is like sandpaper rubbing against your engine's internal parts. You don't want that. You want Z-Max Micro Lubricant. It soaks into metal and keeps your vehicle running at peak performance. Find out more at zmax.com or visit us on Facebook and Twitter. Protect your engine to the max with Z-Max.
Doug Rice is your host for Fast Talk every week on PRN, the Performance Racing Network. Here's Paul Doschel of Toyota.
We have a kind of robust program around NASCAR, and we feel that if we're going to be there and compete against Chevrolet and Ford, that we want to be able to tell that story. And so we feel that a 360-degree approach is the best for that. Radio fills a much-needed void in our marketing program. Being able to have our commercial spots and the relationship that we have with PRN, where they talk about our vehicles as Camrys and Supras.
The Toyota GR Supra makes that hard left turn onto pit road.
As pace cars, the Toyota Camry pace car or the GR Supra pace car adds a nice touch to broadcast rather than when it's just the pace cars coming out of turn 4. So for us, it's really the coming together of the 360-degree approach to really make our program all-inclusive.
NASCAR Network Radio drives business. Brett McMillan returns with more of the Pit Reporters here on the Performance Racing Network.
And welcome back. Time now for our white flag laps. And first up from Fox Sports, Jamie Little.
Oh gosh, I have to give credit where credit is due to Phoenix Raceway and all that they have done over the last 6 years hosting championship weekend. They knocked it out of the park. Thank you to them. Incredible racing all the way around. But at the same time, I'm also looking forward to getting back to Miami Homestead Speedway. We know what kind of racing we see there in every series, no matter what it is. And 18 years, I believe it was the finale. So getting back there and seeing that championship change, that home race change each year is going to be, I think, welcome for a lot of people. So well done by all making it happen. Look forward to the future.
Yeah, they just hope Penske doesn't win every year now.
But we might have a 3-race format for the final. So will it really be that moment? Who knows?
That's true. That means Jimmy Johnson will win again. All right, let's go now to NASCAR Hall of Fame's Tom Jensen.
Well, it's the end of another NASCAR racing season, and we have the holiday season coming up and a break for everybody. And this time of year, I think it's really important to say thank you to the hundreds and thousands of people that none of us ever see. Because for every superstar driver who we have on a T-shirt or have a poster on our wall or whatever, there's crew people who work tirelessly, who nobody knows their names or nobody sees their faces. There's PR people, there's camera people, there's production people, there's people who work at the concession stands, there's people who travel to every race. And I can tell you, I did this for 25 years. It's a brutal, intense grind, but people do it because they love it. They love the sport. They love the people in it. They love the work. And most of all, we love the fans because even though sometimes they drive us crazy with their opinions, the reality is none of us would have roofs over our head or food in our bellies, clothes on our kids' backs without people who are passionate NASCAR fans. So I want to say thank you to all the fans and wish everybody a happy and safe holiday season.
Well said. Well said. Well, we talked a lot about the new point system, and we are pretty confident it's going to be different next year. The one thing you got to remember, whenever you start comparing the way it should have been or the way it might have been or who should have won and this and that and the other, is no matter what the point system is, the teams and the drivers are going to race to that system. So don't tell me this guy would have won if it had been this way, because they race to the system they're racing. If it's an advantage to win more races, that's what they're going to do. if it's an advantage to accumulate more points, that's what they're going to do. Just keep that in mind when the new system comes out. Talk to you next week.
Join us again next week for the Pit Reporters on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.